I think I'd forgotten just how much a last-minute winner and a good performance can do to your mood. It's Sunday morning here in Norfolk, and I'm still buzzing from what I saw at Carrow Road on Saturday. Norwich beating Hull 2-1 in the opening game of the Championship season. Before we progress into this video, I must say, apologies for my voice. It is a good thing that it's like this. It shows that Norwich have been fighting and scrapping, and we were all witnessing a really exciting sporting spectacle. The negative is you have to listen to me sounding like I've just smoked 50 Marlboro Golds. Norwich have won their first Championship game in epic circumstances, and you know, I think for the last couple of seasons, doing these reviews have been some of the least enjoyable video content I've ever produced. It felt like we were just copying kind of scripts from week to week. We were saying the same things, the same issues were surfacing, and they just became really depressing to do. The first thing I wanted to do after yesterday's game was talk about it more, was have a beer with my friends and discuss what we'd just seen. And that's what football is all about. And that's why we keep going back despite anything that we see. And that's a really beautiful thing. I tweeted after Delap scored for Hull. Same shit, different day. And I think in hindsight, it probably looks somewhat harsh. But at the time, it's exactly what I felt. When I saw that strike from Delap hit the back of the net down the Barclay end and him slide off in front of the Hull fans, I did for a moment think that this Norwich team was simply cursed, because the opening 20 or so minutes was really promising. Norwich moved the ball well, they won the ball back well, and they found really intriguing kind of shooting positions, and that was pleasing. And then from absolutely nothing, and it was slightly unfortunate, you know, Duffy's obviously trying to find a pass back to Gunn, Gibson gets in the way, Delap wins it back, and with one of their first shots of the game, they score. And I was just thinking, oh my goodness, like, what do we have to do to just find a way to win a game in the Championship? And if not even that, score a goal. Norwich had 18 shots in the first half, and it wasn't until one of the last kicks of that half that we scored the goal. And what a goal it was, through Johnny Rowe. Now, for any long-term viewers of the TNC podcast, you know that Chris has been a big fan of Johnny Let's Have a Go Rowe for quite some time, and I wasn't overly sure. I'm always sceptical with bigging up youth prospects to the level in which some do, because it adds pressure, and for every 10 youngsters that you think might have it, one might break through. I was sat next to my dear friend Johnny Freeland yesterday in the lower Barclay, but right towards the back, in a slightly different seat to usual. We had a little mix-up, and he's a huge fan of Johnny Rowe, and I was saying, Johnny, just, let's just be a bit careful here. Let's treat this with some composure. And within 5 minutes, I was all aboard the Johnny Rowe boat. It was brilliant to witness. He was taking men on. He's clearly very intelligent. Boy, he's got a shot on him, and he gave us energy, and that's exactly what we needed. And my goodness, has he earned a starting place when we take on Southampton next Saturday. It was a brilliant performance from John Rowe, and you know what, I can't really fault any of the players out there. The starting 11 I thought was pleasing. Kenny McLean and Gabriel Sara kind of holding in midfield. Sara was slightly more progressive. We saw it last season with Kenny McLean, but at times was almost dropping in to become another centre-back and to allow Giannoulis and Stacey to push on. I thought Giannoulis' decision-making was far superior to what we saw last season. Jack Stacey looks like an absolute Rolls-Royce of a right-back, and to be honest, offered more than what we saw from a lot of Max Aaron's last season. Angus Gunn came up with a huge save off Delap once again in the 70th or so minute, which would have put Hull 2-1 up and probably killed the game off in some capacity. That was a huge save, and that kept us in the game. I thought Rowe was excellent out wide. Look, I don't think Hernandez had his best game, but certainly adds some dynamism to this squad. Whether he sticks with Hernandez for Southampton, I think is probably the one position up for question. but nothing against Onel. You know what you're getting from him, that's for sure. I thought Sargent and Barnes worked really nice in a 2. Barnes, the really pleasing thing with Barnes, and look, will he score 20 goals this season? I'm not so sure, possibly. But he links the play beautifully. He drops deep, he comes in, he wins the ball, he holds it up, and it just gives Sargent that little bit extra time to do what he does best, get in good positions and hopefully score goals. I thought Sargent was unlucky not to score yesterday. Couple of headers, couple of unfortunate moments, but I'm really excited for what we're seeing from Sargent this season. The really difficult thing now is not to get too carried away. At the end of the day, we've beaten Hull with a last moment kick. We have 28 shots. We could have easily scored 5 goals. That's the thing now. We need to start converting more chances. Hull, I'd say on paper, and from what I saw, probably one of the worst teams in this division this season. Who knows? I could be horribly wrong on that, but it looks like they're lacking quality in certain areas, and you could certainly see that Rosini was trying to drill a certain method into their play. They were insistent on passing out from the back in some really tight areas, so fair play to them for coming with a game plan and trying to execute it, and it very nearly worked. They could have quite easily walked away with a point. Having said that, they did have 28 shots on their goal and could have quite easily given away a couple of penalties. The one where Johnny Rowe is juggling the ball and it literally is handballed 3 times and not given. We can laugh about it now, but it was a stonewall penalty literally 3 times over within 3 seconds and it wasn't given. The concerns for me, I still think we're a centre-back light, and it was intriguing to see Omar Bamadeli come on. Both Gibson and Duffy were on a booking. I still think a few of these guys, need to, work up to certain fitness levels. There were a few gasping at the end for air. They worked hard. I would assume that Big Andy is off. I might be wrong. It would be huge if we were able to keep him, and he came on and did a solid job, as we know that Big Andy can do. He's a very capable player at this level. But I think we need another centre-back in. I think we probably need another midfielder in, although looking at McLean and Nunes and Sarah, there's certainly quality there. I'm just looking at this from an injury perspective. If one of those gets injured in either position, you're suddenly kind of scraping around a little bit. But I was really impressed. I was really, really impressed. I was dubious to see whether that form that we saw in pre-season would carry over, and it did to a certain extent. I thought we were far more aggressive in the press and we won the ball back. There was an urgency about Norwich yesterday. As soon as we lost the ball, you could feel it in the stadium. Like, we just knew that we were going to win it back. I was up near the back of the Barclay, and the Barclay was lacking atmosphere last season, and it was bouncing yesterday. It was one of the best atmospheres I could remember in a good few years, so that was really positive. And look, Norwich will have a much tougher game next week against Southampton. They looked really good on opening night against Sheffield Wednesday, although, much like Norwich, only just scraped through with a 2-1 win. But it will be a much different contest against Southampton, who will want to try and keep the ball, who will want to try and pass it. It will be interesting to see how much, how many different game plans we have. But pleasing start, and Norwich needed that start. Norwich need a fast start this season for multiple reasons. One, because the fixture list is relatively kind. We've got Southampton next up, and then it's a run of games that we should really be expecting to win. It's QPR away in the Cup. QPR look a shambles this season. Then Millwall, Huddersfield, Rotherham, Stoke. You've got 4 games there that you're probably expecting to win 3 of. So, pleasing. I'm not going to get too carried away, but equally, I'm going to get excited for football again, because that's what we missed for so long. We missed that buzz. We missed that hugging of our comrades next to us after a dramatic late winner. And I must mention, I don't think I've even spoken about it yet, dead chuffed for Adamida to get that last minute goal. He's been criticised, I think sometimes rightly, sometimes wrongly. There's clearly a player in there. I think the difficult thing for Norwich will be, where do you fit him in? I think I see him through the middle. I don't think he's a winger. And you've got Sargent and Barnes ahead of you. 2 players I think are probably better than Adamida. But in terms of an impact sub, did exactly what he needed to do yesterday. Popped up, right place, right time, reacted to it well, slotted it away, wheeled off to the Barclay. Happy days. Can't ask for anything more than that. Great win. Let me know down in the comments what you thought of the game. Just buzzing to be back at Carrow Road. It felt really good yesterday, despite the just torrential downpours for the entire 90 minutes in the middle of August. But we can see past that for the sake of 3 points. Thanks very much for watching. We'll be back for a podcast in the next couple of days. I'm excited to be back with Chris in that podcast studio to talk about that. And we'll see what happens. See you later, everyone. Bye-bye.